So, as many of you know, I was at Hack Your Health back in the end of May. This is 2024. And somebody that I met who came and watched me speak at it is a very well known carnivore doc in the social media space. And that's Carnivore Doc Lisa. And Lisa invited me to actually come on her YouTube channel and do a little talk about hormone replacement therapy. And then afterwards, I said, geez, I would really like for you to come on my podcast because I've had some of the big, carnivore docs. We had Sean Baker on, I've had Paul Saladino on, I've had Ken Berry on several times, but I've never had a woman come on to talk about the carnivore diet. And I think that it's really different for women than it is for men. And even our kind of like what drives us to even try carnivore is different than what drives a man to typically try carnivore. So today we're going to be jumping into this with Carnivore Doc Lisa. So Dr. Lisa
Wiedeman.
Wiedeman
Wiedeman. Mhm.
is an optometric. Did I say that right, Lisa? Optometric physician, which has to do with your eyes, with over 33 years in practice. She practices root cause healing. So many ocular diseases, so eye diseases and disorders, present themselves after long-term eating of processed foods. She herself suffered from sugar, carb, processed food addiction, like so many of us, and researched and came to eating a carnivore diet in 2009, which I can imagine nobody was doing at the time. She now dedicates most of her time providing one on one coaching, hosting coaching groups, carnivore beach retreats, and educating viewers on her YouTube channel. You can find her YouTube channel at Carnivore Doctor or her website, carnivore/doctor.com. So, welcome, Lisa. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's such a pleasure to be here because it is such a passion of mine to try to help spread the word of food is so important there's so many different aspects of healthy living, but food is really critical. And from my perspective of how long, unbeknownst to me, I suffered from a very serious sugar carb binge eating, disordered eating, addiction, and
Mhm.
I didn't understand it. So it became very secretive. And I know if anybody listening has done that thing where, you hide wrappers or you hoard food or you wait for somebody to leave or somebody to go to bed, and we do these behaviors. And it became so important to me to um, be vulnerable and open up
Yeah.
and tell my story because I know so many suffer from this same affliction. And it's understanding how inflammatory it is to our body. Every organ system, whether it's our eyes, our heart, our joints, our GI tract, there's our skin, there's our
Mhm.
depression, anxiety, it impacts everything. And
Mhm.
that's why I just feel like I need to be able to speak out about this because so many people are so really incredibly helped by understanding that abstinence is really what's necessary. People like me do not moderate. There's
Right.
no eating half of a cupcake, even half of a healthy mango. So I
Mhm.
thought mangoes were healthy. Well, guess what? I'm addicted to the sugar in fruits too. And people find it hard to believe, but I have not eaten fruits or vegetables for over 15 years now. And it's been the most freeing, wonderful thing that I've ever done in my life. And I'm so grateful that I found this Zeroing In on Health website back in 2009 and saw all sorts of people writing in there. They resolved their diabetes, their depression, even their bipolar and their MS. And there was a
Yeah.
couple women in there also, because you could keep your own journal. And I was reading about a couple of these women who wrote about how this has resolved their disordered eating. And I was all in. I was like bug-eyed. I couldn't stop reading. I was up till past, 1 in the morning, and I jumped in the next
Wow.
day, March 9th, 2009. And now it's so refreshing that here we are over 15 years later, and the word is getting out, and people are becoming outspoken, even prior vegetarians and vegans, especially, who have gotten ill, and flip on a dime to carnivore from what they're seeing and are experiencing incredible improvements in their health. And so, this all ties in also with hormones and,
Hmm.
between people with thyroid issues, all sorts of things. So I
Hmm.
just feel it's so important to talk about. And, I
Yeah.
also, my own eye practice with people who have severe dry eye or recurrent chalazion or blepharitis or meibomian gland dysfunction. I mean, I'm throwing out all of these kind of eye disorder things, but I know some of your listeners here
Going,
are,
I got that. Yeah,
yeah, my
exactly.
God, I said this blepharitis thing, and they told me to put hot compresses on. Well, guess
Yeah.
what? You got to get to the root cause of it. You can't just keep band-aiding. There's no medication that's going to make it go away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I just, and then I just wanted to scream it from the rooftops. I just
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
tell anybody who was willing to listen. This was back then, and not that many people. I felt like I was
Oh
flying
my
a free.
gosh. I can't
I'm flying a
imagine.
free flag. Like, what do you mean? You can't possibly think you're healthy not eating vegetables and lots of fiber and grains and lean
Because not
meat.
even keto was popular back in 2009.
Now, there was
It was
Atkins, because
starting. Yeah.
Atkins was kind of back in there, but there was
Yes.
many people who said, "Oh, I did Atkins. I did really good. I lost weight." But then I put it all back on, right?
Mhm.
Well, guess what? In Atkins, I guess because it was standard of care to not tell people to not eat any vegetables for the rest of their life, what you do with Atkins is, after that nice little induction phase, which is
Yeah.
basically carnivore, you start to climb, you're allowed and told to climb the carb ladder to find that level of carbohydrates that you tolerate. Well, guess what? This girl right here tolerates zero.
Yeah.
Soon as I start eating any, I am right down a slippery slope into what I call the ditch, the carb ditch. And it was just a yo-yo. And then we're people who will, gain 30 pounds, lose 25, gain 40, lose 15. And where are you at? You know where you're at? You're still addicted to food, and you still have a disordered relationship with food. And that's what becomes really important to understand is, what am I doing when I'm getting up to snack? That's an emotional event. Are we truly hungry, or are we
Mhm.
just trying to fill an emotional void? Is it anxiety, anger, stress, boredom? There's so many reasons. And we have learned, because we're very intricate with how our brain functions and learns how to get a dopamine hit. And
Yeah.
boy, sit down with a bag of chips or a pint of Haagen-Dazs or some M&Ms and a Diet Coke. Like, I could name tons and tons of what people have said through the years. It's like, oh yeah, that was my, what I call the DOC, my drug of choice, right?
Right.
Whether it's, yeah. And so it's just so really incredible now that there's such a big movement to have people understand that we don't we shouldn't really be eating grains, and they're not healthy for our gut, and we don't need fiber. And I say, I haven't eaten fiber in 15 years and I poop just fine.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
know, an
It,
entire book called Fiber Menace that actually explains that fiber is not good for you, and that the roughage and the undigestible cellulose that's working its way through our small intestine, large intestine, and through the rectum can actually be causative of polyps and these said things that we are needing to check for. And yeah, I mean, so
yeah.
it's really great to see a lot of people seeking an answer. And it really comes down to, though, people really have to have their own personal why that makes them cry, because nobody just says, oh, let me
Why
listen
that
to,
makes them cry. I love
because
that.
let me just listen to this crazy eye doctor telling me that she eats just meat, seafood, and eggs for the past 15 years. Okay, let me go clean out my cupboards and try this.
Right.
Nobody's
Right. It's
really
not
motivated
enough.
to do that
No.
unless you really do have your own issues where you say, you know what have I got to lose? Nothing I've been doing in the past has worked. I mean, Jenny Craig, the cabbage soup
Yeah.
diet, Weight
Yeah.
Watchers, you name it, Slim Fast, people are trying everything. But what's the problem? They still keep the taste of sweet, artificial sweeteners. All of that is a no-go because it just keeps the cravings alive. And it's very hard for people to understand that. And
Yeah.
I always say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him carnivore.
No. No, and I think it's really important for people to know that and understand that there's no one perfect diet for anybody, that there's so many different things that we can choose from. And I think we have to be really open-minded to trying different things to see if is that going to work for me. I mean, someone with an autoimmune condition, you might want to try an autoimmune diet and see how that works for you. With a carnivore diet, this could be really great for people with carb addiction and eating
And,
disorders and,
and even
different things. Even for autoimmune conditions, it can be
right.
amazing. Insulin resistance, diabetes. But it's really important, I think, for everybody to stay open-minded with it because we will hear in the space. I just heard it the other day. Stacy Sims, who's an extremely highly educated woman when it comes to women's health, speaking about the fact that we need fiber, that we need to eat fiber because of our microbiome. And then literally like 5 minutes later, I'm looking at Ben Azadi's YouTube channel, and Ben Azadi from Keto Camp is showing all of his lab results from 3 months of being hard, like 100% carnivore for 3 months. And he shows his before and after gut bacteria results. And guess what? It got better. And so it's just like you can find such varying. And so I think that it's really important for people to go, like this, like dampen down all this noise and go, okay, could this work for me? And knowing that there's this spectrum of carb tolerance, I think, is also really important. And we have to start looking at carb addiction in a similar way that we look at alcohol addiction and other addictions, because we don't. We try and, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, 80/20, which I love 80/20. I can do 80/20 all day long. But my sister, who is a complete sugar addict, could never, ever do that. It's like all or none, same as you. It's like she has to look at it like a true blue addiction where it's like you can't tell the hardcore alcoholic, just have, 20% of the time you
Have a
can have a
shot.
little bit of alcohol, but then that's it, shut her down. Like, we have to change our mindset about it and see that it can be a really serious problem for people, and that something like this could be a really great solution to that.
Yeah, and even if it's an initial 90-day to say, you know what, let me do this and just
Exactly.
call
Yes.
it an elimination experience. I hate to say experiment, but we are experimenting on
Yeah.
ourselves. We're trying to learn. But if you go through that experience, what are you learning? It could be the most incredible time where week by week, month by month, you're noticing like, wow, when I step out of bed, my left foot doesn't ache anymore like it always did when I walked to the bathroom. Oh my gosh, I don't have reflux anymore. And all of these things will start presenting itself. And then, so then it typically after 90 days, most people will just say, well, I'm going to do another 90. This was fabulous. And even if you're at the point where you have, let's say, resolve some autoimmune issues, which I recommend people also give up dairy if they're looking to do
Yeah.
that too, because
Same.
that's a pretty big culprit. But so
Yeah.
let's say you go down to meat, seafood, and eggs, and you then are at a point where you can then make an informed decision of how you felt. And so let's say you want to add in avocados, and so then add them and see what the response is to that one thing. But when we're just willy-nilly eating things, and then we're at a party and we give ourselves permission, and now we're having
Right.
some guacamole and those tortillas that are deep fried in the bad seed oils.
Yeah.
And then we try to get back on track. But then the next night we're out with our friends, and then we have some wine.
Yeah.
And then,
Always going to be an excuse.
there's always an excuse. And unless you really take this seriously, I say, look,
Yeah.
we got one trip around the block. And, alcohol is metabolized very similar to sugar. And it's, in my experience of so many people in my groups, it became critical to give up the alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
It's a quick trip into the ditch when you let down your guard, and also for the detrimental effects it has on us. But people don't realize alcohol is a carcinogen. It increases your risk of 4 different types of cancers. It is toxic to our liver.
Yeah.
And I had some, I had a beach retreat here this weekend, and the topic came up, and we all had just this open discussion about our past history with it, our current situation. One
Yeah.
likes to have a cocktail with their husband,
Yeah.
and then another one has a group of friends that they always go. And I said, you know what? But they're all in on, I want to stop. I need to stop, but it's kind of hard. I go, it's not hard. You know what? When they go, oh, Sue, you're not drinking anymore. What do you mean you're not drinking anymore? I just say, oh, I'm doing this crazy 90-day challenge, and boy, do I feel good. But I'm seeing how, it just kind of throw it out there. Oh, I'm doing this crazy challenge.
Yes.
Or the other thing that I say that you can say, no matter what it is, whether it's somebody offering you apple pie or a glass of wine, whatever it is that somebody's trying to enthusiastically offer for you to join in, and you're thinking to yourself, I've decided this is leading to harm instead of health. There's 2 choices of what you put in your mouth. Is it leading to health or harm? And if you've already decided, I'm not eating apple pie, I'm not drinking red wine, the simple thing that you reply to people when they're offering it and saying, come on, you mean you're never going to have this? Just say, you know what? I figured out I don't feel good when I drink that. I don't feel good when I eat that. So it shuts it down right there, because they can't come back at you and say, well, I don't want you to feel good. Have it anyway. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it really shuts it down, because, somebody cannot deny you your own personal feelings and experience with something. And it's like, you know what? I've just realized and it's become true for me. I don't feel good when I drink, whether it's a headache later that night, whether it's not sleeping as well that night, whether it's feeling a little the next morning. Who needs that in their life? I mean, I get it. It's an enjoyable thing for many people, and can be fun and all that stuff, but you have to really think seriously about this one body you're given, this one opportunity to be healthy, stay healthy, get healthy. And there's something serious about fatty liver disease, and it happens pretty quickly with both sugar and
And
alcohol.
alcohol.
And it
Yeah.
can be totally reversed. I have many people in my groups who have been diagnosed with fatty liver. And then there's versions of it. NA, fat F, it's
Non-alcoholic.
non-alcoholic fatty liver, so you don't even have to be a drinker at all. And you can reverse it. And especially if you do socially drink and you think it's okay, and I don't want to give it up. And you have to really start understanding what your attraction is to it, why you're clinging
Yes.
to it, and figure out for yourself, what do I want? I want to be able to hike and
Feel
kayak.
good.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. I want to be able to live out my years. I mean, I'll be 60 this year, and I feel like I've got at least another 40 to go. And
Yeah.
I want to be vibrant and healthy. I mean, at 6 a.m. this morning, I had my group out watching the sunrise. And then I showed them how I sprint. I do, 20-second sprint, and then I walk, and then I do a full out sprint. And it's just so healthy. And it's so important that we stay active, and we really just keep going, keep learning, and keep understanding. And you don't have to take what I'm saying as the gospel. I'm just telling, this is what has worked incredibly well for me, and for now hundreds of thousands of people who
Yeah.
are resolving health issues. But
Yeah.
it's not easy. I say the rules are simple, execution's not easy.
No, and I like the idea of going kind of if it's something that you're interested in or something that you think could really help with what you're dealing with, I think the mindset of going, I'm going to do the 30-day challenge, even a 90-day challenge, 30-day challenge. If that, if that's all you can commit to. I always tell people when they even just going gluten-free for some people can be so hard. And some of these women that I work with, to them, that's just like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. And so I always say, don't look into the future. Just say, I'm just doing this for 30 days and then I'll figure it out. Because at the end of the 30 days, one of two things is going to happen. It's either you're going to go, that sucked. I feel no better. Forget about it. I'm going back to the way I was eating. Or you're going to feel so dang good, like you said, and be like, okay, I want to do another 30 days. I want to do another 90 days. And because I think that if we start to go too long down that road, then it's, people can panic and they set themselves up for failure, because then they start thinking, how can I go the rest of my life without eating a carb? How can I go the rest of my life without drinking? How can, and
Yeah.
the drinking thing, I mean, we could do a whole podcast. I'm very passionate about the whole drinking thing, especially for women, because our demographic of women is the only demographic where they're seeing alcohol consumption going up, which is to me really sad. But they're glamorizing it so much right now in social media and on TV. And it's like every woman has to have a drink in her hand. And it's these, oh, mama's needs her wine and all of these things. And it's like, but it's the most harmful thing. And it's the only drug that we have to justify not doing. How does that make any sense? Like, it's like we worry about what we're going to say or how we're going to do this because majority of society is drinking, and it's more socially acceptable to drink than not to drink.
Yeah. And I try to, because I am really passionate about anybody who's coming into my group, I know they're looking for help and they need to feel supported and they need the information. And I go, okay, look, it's really important, this alcohol thing, because it leads to nowhere good. It's not helping the situation. It's drastically hurting it. So here's what you're going to do. This, and I say at the beginning, when you feel awkward because all your friends expect and know that you drink, I say, I have some girlfriends invite me out and we're meeting at Donovan's Grill, which of course just means hang at the bar, right? I get there a little ahead of time. I get the bartender to fill up seltzer with a little wedge of lime. My friends are coming in, we're drinking, blah, 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 and we're all having fun talking. Nobody knows whether it's a gin and tonic, a
No.
vodka club, whatever. It's club, right? And when it empties and we're still here, I just lean forward to the bartender. I go,
Yeah.
and he takes the little gun and I'm all happy. And I go home feeling healthy and good. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard because there is that point where you crave it and you want it. And you have to think about that to yourself. I'm craving an addictive drug that's detrimental to my health. And that's really important. There's so many really great videos on YouTube about this whole topic, and it's so impactful to actually watch them and see what the alcohol is doing in your body so that it helps to override that desire. I just want to have a glass of wine, and yeah, it's so normalized
Yeah.
in a horrible
Yeah.
way. And of course, during the whole quarantine lockdown, of course the liquor stores were all open.
Yeah. But
And
the gym's closed.
yes, and it became like a joke, a running, fun. It's like, hey, but it really has to be understood that when you're making these choices, you need to really make them for your health, because without our health, we have nothing. And I
Yeah.
know, again, it's not easy.
And alcohol converts to sugar. And so for people that are trying to become carb sober, as you coined it, drinking, but then eating carnivore, you're just undoing the health benefits. Like alcohol, and that goes for anything. Women are like super hardcore athletes and they're running and they're going to the gym and they're eating perfectly. And then they're drinking their face off on the weekend. And it's like, how does that make sense? Like you're just undoing so much of what you just did all week for your health by drinking, because it's
yeah,
so detrimental to our health, especially in midlife. Like, and I don't judge anybody for drinking. I understand how hard it was. I was a very hardcore alcoholic for over a decade. Like it was terrible. I was in the scene. I was a bartender. I've been there, but I've been sober for 15, no more than that, 17 years now. And it was one of the best things that I've ever done. And I don't judge anybody for doing it. I just want everybody to not lie to themselves about it and to educate themselves about it. And if you're trying a carnivore diet to help with your carb addiction or for other health issues, you really do want to prepare yourself to also give the drink a break as well. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And I really, Karen, it's one of those things where it's important to understand the connection and think about, I've not myself attended any AA meetings, but there's, from what I hear, lots of caffeine, coffee, and
Oh my gosh.
desserts.
And dessert. Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many people who have been sharing their stories in my groups are talking about having gotten sober from alcohol and cross-addicted onto the food and sugar, and then
Yes.
subsequently weighed over 200 pounds. But they're
Yep.
sober from alcohol, right? But they cross-addicted because it's so tightly entwined.
Yes.
And it's very important to really understand that there's many people who have come into carnivore and found it much easier to give up other addictions because of the connection and stopping it. But with the sugar, similar. Well, so here's the thing. I say the whole carb and sugar addiction is extra, it's so extremely more difficult because with alcohol, when you go into rehab recovery, or people know you've been in AA, people know you're not drinking anymore, right? People are not, oh, you just got to try this tequila. It's the best I've ever had. Or, oh my gosh, they're not pushing it on you because they know.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, right? It's very different with food. It's everywhere. We're triggered everywhere. Everything is like, where are we going? What are you bringing? What are we having? And
Yes.
and it is so normalized. You can't go anywhere. You go to Home Depot to buy a hammer, and there's the latest crushed potato chip Kit Kats in front of you and Reese's peanut butter cups, right? All of
Everywhere.
this stuff is everywhere. You walk into a grocery store, from floor to ceiling, it's the extra dark kettle chip potato chip, new fangled variety they have. And then the bakery department has a whole table right when you walk in the door typically, and the aroma's piped out. And this is crazy. You might think I'm crazy, but this is what mounts such a difficult, triggering experience wherever you go, whether it's walking in the mall and smelling Mrs. Fields cookies, or even walking into a relative's house. Oh, I baked you the special eclairs that you love. Everything becomes a trigger when you realize, to get out of it, to just get peace around food again, you have to abstain. You can't, because as soon as we give ourselves permission and we have that little bit, remember, it's kind of like the drinking thing, but
Slippery slope.
I'll put it into the food version. It's one bite's too many and a thousand's never enough, which is what
Yeah.
they say about the drink, right? One
Yeah.
drink is too many and thousands never enough. And it's serious. It's very, very real. I mean, sugar is more addictive than heroin and cocaine. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of information out there about it, but it's not recognized as an actual, what is it, DSM-10 or whatever they're up to now, code for actual medical diagnosis, but certainly should be. I mean, we look
Yeah.
around, we see our society is getting sicker and sicker
Yeah.
and fatter, and it's really serious.
Yeah. And the amount of shit that's in the grocery store is just getting more and more and more. Like I walk around just going, how can anybody deal with this? Like it's so much and it's a lifelong struggle. It's going to be a lifelong struggle, I think, for
Yeah.
every single person out there, unless you just have like, you're 100% easily, you can, take it or leave it or whatever,
Not,
but
and
most people
not
can't.
right. Not many people can moderate it, especially if you've come from my world. There's no moderation of it. And I tell people, don't eat anything that comes in a box, a bag, a bottle, or a jar. We should be eating just pure whole foods, not anything with a label with multiple ingredients. And that's the way to health, really, is
Yeah.
understanding that.
Yeah. See, and I'm personally on the kind of opposite end, but this is my own thing is I come from a very disordered eating background like you. Um, I was anorexic or tried to be anorexic. I was never successful with that, but I was bulimic for many, many years in high school. And then just, it was like always on to the next best diet and restriction, restriction, restriction. And I've tried it all. And I had to come to a place where I had to let go of the stress around food because that was harming me more than the food itself. I never had this like serious sugar addiction or anything. And so I can moderate really well. Like I can do the 80/20, but that's me. And I've just because I've never like I have a shut off button. I can eat a little bit of sweet and then it's like done. We have like
Now
tarts,
you're
homemade tarts in the house, and I had to have one and then I was offered ice cream after dinner and I was like, no, because that was enough sweet for me for the entire day.
Yeah,
Like
now
that's how I run.
your 80/20 is from what I'm sensing from what you just said is different than the typical in my world when we talk about 80/20. We're talking about macros, 80% fat to 20% protein to get into ketosis. You're
Oh
talking
no,
about
I'm talking about like
healthy
80%
80%
healthy
of the
eating,
time and
20%
20%
whatever.
giving
Yeah.
yourself a little permission.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But somebody that's got carb addiction, they can't do the 80/20.
No.
If it's like yours. And so when looking back before 2009, what was your relationship then with food? Were you the person that was hiding out and eating in
Yeah, well,
secret
yeah.
or
So this is really surprising me. Like when I'm hearing you say this, because I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. Because I was bulimic for 30 years. Yeah,
wow.
yeah. But and there's no middle ground for me. It's like, yeah, I do not touch that food because of having such a disordered relationship with it. And plus, I look at it if I truly believe that sugar is inflammatory and sugar is very powerful to feed cancer cells and
Mhm,
all these things, I'm thinking, well, then why, even for other reasons, why do I want to put it in my body?
mhm,
And what, again, is what I'm about to put in my mouth leading to harm or health? And ice cream doesn't fit the health thing for me. So again, it's just this, I have this feeling where I am always making that decision. And instead of
mhm,
saying I struggle around food, because
mhm,
I don't struggle around food anymore, I
mhm.
battle it though. I battle
Still.
yeah, well, I battle knowing that, and it's interesting because my binging tendencies can translate into, let's say, bacon, which is an allowable carnivore
Yep.
food, and I
Yep.
make a pound of bacon, I eat some, and then as I walk by, I will pick it some more, and then when I go to wrap it up and put it in the fridge, I will pick it some more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And especially dairy. Dairy has casomorphines. It's actually precursor to opioids, and it is
Yep.
addictive.
Same with gluten.
You can type in to Google, is cheese addictive? And you will
Yeah.
get some articles. But
I tell
um,
people that I said that to someone recently and they're like, no. I'm like, no, it like reacts on the opioid receptors of your brain. They're like, nah. I'm like, no, it's true. It's
yeah,
addictive.
I always say there no ball of fresh mozzarella is safe around me, because like you got
Right.
to off the ends with the little wrapper marks on it. That's the best part. And then I start going inward, and hopefully it's a little ball instead of a full log, because this
You can
girl
eat
wants to
it.
go through it
Right.
all. Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so thank you for being honest about that. Like that this is still can be an issue. And I've talked to a lot of people that have said the same thing where they're like, it just that addiction, you have to be very careful. Like my sister did keto and she started to just like pound back nuts because it was like, and they're so addictive, nuts, right? Like not literally, I
Sure.
don't think they react on the opiate receptors, but
I
she
have
was just like,
heard that they are
Oh,
actually
okay. Okay, so maybe they do. Yeah. But she realized she was eating like she was gaining weight, and she realized she was eating like 3,000 calories of macadamia nuts in a day, and was just
worse.
like, "Oh my God." Or like the people will go paleo and start eating like everything paleo baked, right? I'm gonna have paleo cookies and paleo this and paleo that, or gluten-free this and gluten, because they think, "Oh, it's okay." And it's like, "No, you're just going from one addiction to the other. It's not
Yeah,
changing
I
anything."
say you're just changing seats on the Titanic.
It's just
Still
sinking.
going down. But yeah, there's an interesting thing to bring up though is, you could call it paleo or keto, the keto treats, the keto cookies, keto
Yes.
brownies,
Yes.
and there's all sorts of huge cookbooks with keto cheesecake and keto chocolate pudding and keto tiramisu. And I could go on, right? But what I'm really getting at is you have to understand you're just trying to grasp onto, not
Yes.
actually abstaining from these foods that you really need to abstain from, because it's so freeing, not only when you get the hardcore true crap desserts out, but the fake mimicking versions of it are equally detrimental, because it is still in reinforcing the behavior that you have.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I need something sweet after dinner. I deserve a treat. I'm just going to have, and you're eating for emotional reasons, you're eating for entertainment, all of these things we don't want to do. And ultimately, I really don't feel that erythritol, allulose, stevia,
Mhm.
any of those chemicals that are made in a factory and put into a box or a bag, and you're putting into your various um, fake desserts, just to cling to, not, you just, the thought of giving it up is very difficult at the beginning. I get that. And just like what you said, when you tell people go gluten free and they're like, oh, I can't eat bread anymore. I mean, at the beginning, I couldn't imagine, as a family, we'd go out to breakfast, and I always loved to either get my toasted bagel or my toasted rye toast to have with my omelet. And just thinking to not eat the toast. The hash browns, I could care less. I'm not really so into potatoes, but the toast, the crunch with the butter, and like that part of it is like, really? I'm not going to eat that anymore. And then you keep learning and you understand that that's really not so good for you. And that you actually will then learn and say, it's not that I can't have it. I'm choosing not to have it. And I'm
That's
choosing
important.
want to feel better. And I tell people it's so important to remind yourself of that every
Mhm.
morning.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I have the why document that I call it, and I'm creating a PDF printable for that for people who are in the group. I want you to list your whys. I want to list
Yes.
your non-scale victories, the things that are happening positively as you go through your 30-day or 90-day challenge. I have all these monthly challenges because I want people to understand that you can do it for a day, right? You can do anything for a day, right?
Yes.
We're stringing the days together. I have meetings 5 to 6 days a week that we come in and we talk about this, because this is difficult. It's very
Mhm.
difficult, but you have to understand you can do it. And the reason why is because ultimately we want health. And what you've
Mhm.
been doing up to this point hasn't been working. So it's time to pull up your big girl panties. I say, suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah.
Come over, get rid of your chewing gum, get rid of your Diet Coke. Those are two biggies. People are like, well, I just chew a little gum. Yeah, well, guess what? It's in your car, it's in your purse, it's in this drawer, it's in the junk drawer, it's at your office, it's in the bathroom. And people who are addicted to gum, guess what? You're addicted to the taste of sweet, and you keep popping them in your mouth, right? And it's really tough when you try to get people to understand all that stuff is chemicals. You don't want to chew gum. It's signaling to your brain that food is coming down, and it's going to start prepping for food because of the jaw chewing action. And there's detrimental things to everything that we choose to do. And that is outside of what I call, as Ken Berry says, the proper human diet, which is whole foods. In my experience, it's meat, seafood, eggs, minimal dairy if you tolerate it. But I'm You know, I do dairy, like when I'm at a restaurant, I'll order a nice cheddar cheeseburger or blue cheeseburger, but I don't keep cheese in my refrigerator house. It's dairy's really out unless portion control out at a restaurant and I'll kind of treat
Right.
myself to it. But for the most part, that's really ultimately healthy. And people say, well, I love my vegetables. Well, most vegetables don't taste good unless you got cheese or butter on it, first of all,
Yes, exactly. Or salad dressing. Drowned
or
in
the
salad
salad dressing,
dressing.
which
Yep.
so toxic. If there's one thing, especially as an eye
Yeah.
doctor, I could say from seeing so many people suffer from macular degeneration. And, you know, I have a YouTube video where I talk with Dr. Chris Kenobi, an ophthalmologist who spent 8 years of his life researching because he was seeing a correlation of what the causative entity was for macular degeneration. Because back in the early
Which
1900s,
is just, Lisa, can you just explain what that is? Like, that's just
yeah,
losing your sight as you're
yeah.
aging.
So the macula is that critical part in the back of our eye that we need for our central vision. And macular degeneration is where there's a disruption to the macula and there can be bleeding. And guess what? You lose your central vision. So whatever you're looking at is a big splotch, and all you see is kind of blurry peripheral because our peripheral vision is not 20/20. Our peripheral vision goes from like 20/60, 2100, 2200. Out here, we can see things, but not clearly because we point our macula at it to see it clearly. We point our eye, the macula, to it. So when you get macular degeneration, it is pretty serious. And it was one in hundreds of thousands back in the early 1900s. And now it's 1 in 3 over the age of
Wow.
5. And over the age of 55, it's 1 in 11. And I'm just really, I can't believe in my 33 years of practice, how much I now think back that in my early part of my career, hardly saw it. And just in the 33 years, I have noticed, and now I literally, I had a woman who's 50 years old, and I examine the back. I take the retinal photos, an actual photo of the whole back of the eye. And guess what? I see these things called drusen, these little white dots in the macula area. And I have them come over to this side of the computer screen. I go, look, we got an issue here. We got to stop eating seed oils. No mayonnaise, no salad dressing, no canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, you name. Don't put oil in your body. And then they say, well, what about olive oil? 80% are adulterated without you knowing it. It's not on the label. They have done, you know, studies. And so I just say, I use butter and bacon fat and beef tallow. I have no need to risk that. My dad lost most of his vision from macular degeneration. My own parents didn't want to listen to their daughter, who 15 years ago started talking to them about eating healthier and trying to eat less carbs and less sugar and no mayonnaise and salad dressing or fried calamari at a restaurant. You know, it's so pervasive, it's everywhere. And people say, oh,
Oh my gosh.
I don't
Yeah.
buy that stuff, I don't eat that.
Oh,
And I'm,
yeah, you can't
oh,
escape
whoa,
it.
whoa, 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 there.
Yeah.
Because it's in you look at pretty much any label. You know, there's a huge amount of foods that have that because it allows the product to stay on the shelf longer.
Yep.
Okay, and it makes it cheaper because it's inexpensive. And it is so detrimental, not just to our eyes, but to our entire body. And there's such a long half-life. It's 680 days. Once, let's say you eat some French fries or onion rings or calamari at a restaurant, or mayonnaise in a tuna salad sandwich or salad dressing, right? 680 days later, half of it will be exited from your body. And another 680 days, we're talking a long time, another half of that. And this is so inflammatory and so detrimental to our health that I try to anytime anybody gives me a little platform like Karen has here and allows me to step up on my soapbox, I try to really, if there's nothing else you take away from this, forget about this crazy lady eating, meat and seafood and eggs for 15 years and nothing else. Just take away how important it is to not put that or in your kids either. I mean, those goldfish crackers, everything has it in it. Like
Everything.
you're putting it in your kid, and oh my gosh, the chicken fingers and chicken nuggets and the French fries, it is so toxic. And the big problem is you don't die the next day, the next week, the next month. It's so cumulative. And the health issues that come about after decades of eating this stuff, the arthritis, the depression, the anxiety, the diabetes, the skin issues, people don't realize that this doesn't just happen, like this. And it's not because, oh, I'm getting old. Guess what? That's not what's supposed to happen when you get old. It's from decades of putting processed foods, sugars, grains into your body, and it starts to take its toll finally to give you, hopefully, your why that makes you cry so you straighten up and figure out what you don't want to put in your body anymore. Because that's what it takes. Nobody's just going to do this on a whim, like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let me try that. Nobody's
Yeah,
doing
no,
that.
no,
Nobody's
it's
doing
too
that.
hard.
So that's why I keep saying that. Why that makes you cry? What is it? People
How
say,
much, like, just how much of that do you see being part of this journey? Because I think a lot of people that have an addiction to carbs, it is emotion, like the root cause is usually an emotionally driven, like just like alcoholism and other things. And there is going to be a chemical addiction, like to the actual substance, like a physical addiction, sorry, a physical
right.
addiction to it. But how much of it do you see being, because a lot of people, that's where they go wrong, I think, is they hop onto these diets and think, oh, this is going to be the answer to my sugar addiction. Or people that decide to quit alcohol and then they just switch right over to another addiction with sugar usually, because they're not dealing with the original reason why they were driven to overconsume that, whatever that is. And so I think then a lot of people fail because they haven't dealt with it. They haven't dealt with the eating disorder and what originally drove that. And so do you see that a lot, or do you see it being more of a physical addiction rather than an emotional addiction? Sugar.
Uh, yeah, it's definitely a combination because you can get over the physical part of it usually within 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I
It's
think
the
too.
other part that is extremely difficult that we will tend to cross addict. And I'm going to say, even onto, I have people in my groups who have overcome, they were a meth addict, they were an alcoholic, and then they resolved that, right, with abstinence and programs, and then ended up gaining 150 pounds because they cross addicted onto food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Came into this world and realized, now I see that's where those addictions went, right? And so they come in and they get carb sober with our group. And then they find they are binge watching Netflix episodes, or they are
Shopping
doing,
or
yeah, those process addictions count too. And yeah, and so we say, well, what can we do about it? It's like and then we could say, well, all right, we have to get to the bottom line, the issue, right? But I say we have to have a lot of tools in the toolbox. And whether it is things like turning to a new hobby, learning an instrument, yoga and meditation, and even some people are like, even use a tool of saying, you know what? I have a jigsaw puzzle set up on my table every day, and it's very relaxing and it helps reduce the stress. Or somebody who's even just doing, it sounds silly, but paint by numbers, or learning to draw and
this
dedicating
is
that.
really important for people to hear, because I think a lot of what drives that food behavior is boredom.
Yeah,
And you hear
boredom,
that from people, and then you take it away, and they don't have anything to replace it with, and then they're have to face their emotions. They're
right.
bored.
And
They
what
don't get
a
the
lot,
dopamine hit.
yeah, and then a lot of times what happens is, okay, so you're bored. Okay, I'm going to watch TV, but what did they do usually when they watch TV? The chips and the ice cream were out. So some people actually have to cut that and say, you know what? I'm going to walk 10,000 steps every single day for the next 30 days, 90 days, whatever it takes to get yourself out of that pattern, because
Yes.
our brains are we like repetition, we like routine, and it becomes very important when that repetition and routine is detrimental that we substitute it with something healthy. And
Yes.
and I say, it's not healthy to cross addict onto, I've always said, like, a lot of people who are those like triathletes, Ironman people, I think they have somehow in their lives cross addicted onto working out for 6 hours a day, every day. And that is that's another, it definitely is another, over exercise is another addiction. So.
Yeah, yeah. And how for you, how important is the circadian rhythm health? Because I know that you're very, I went through your Instagram this morning preparing for our interview, and there's so many great pictures of you on the beach, and you've got really nice, for those that aren't watching, you've got a great tan. You're obviously not afraid of the sun, and you talk a lot about the sun, and you're saying like this morning you had your group get out there on the beach, and so what's that done for you? Because I feel like that's an important piece for you.
It really is. And I have to say, it, as more time's gone on and the more I look into a lot of different people who are really experts in the field, like there's Dr. Jack Cruz, he's a
Yeah.
neurosurgeon, and talks about the importance of spending most of our time outdoors, as well as when we are indoors and we have lights from computers, artificial, we wear
Yes.
blue blocking glasses. So this toxic blue light is, it actually is detrimental to us. But the thing is that in our modern society, we are in our box. We wake up, right, in this house box. We get into our car box and drive to work, and then get into the office box, and then come back into the car box and go maybe into the store box, and then back in the car box, back to the house box. Okay. Whoa, whoa, whoa. This is not what man as an animal was intended to do. And it is very, very detrimental that we're not spending a lot of time outdoors. And in particular, at least I always try to do 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes longer if I can, at sunrise. So try to adjust your sleep to go to bed earlier, wake up right around sunrise, get yourself outside. Even if it's a matter of a screened in porch, the light's still coming in. Open a window, open a door, or if you can, actually go outside, go for a walk, ground your bare feet onto the dirt, the concrete, the grass. It's really important and very helpful. And then midday, you should really try to spend about an hour or two. I know it seems like a stretch for people, like, I can't do that. I don't have time. I'm like, well, you can try. And then at sunset time, very important. This is signaling. And I'll tell you, as an eye doctor, this is really interesting stuff, that our eyes are not just for vision. Oh my gosh, that sounds so crazy. Of course, this is what we use to see. This is our eyes, right? Well, our eyes are an outpouching from our brain, and our eyes are connected to our brain. In addition to visual neurocells that are in there, the rods and cones, the ganglion for vision, there are photoreceptors that are there for circadian rhythm to monitor, be able to tell the angle of the sun that's hitting our eyes and the light rays that are coming through. And we're getting such benefits because when the sun first comes up, it's orange. And it's not till it gets up higher that it turns pale or yellow, right? And the same thing at sunset. And it's a beautiful thing, but it's only a beautiful thing when we know about getting outside in it and letting this into our eyes. And I'll just quick add one more thing, because now I'm on I'm on this, now you got me on
I
the
love
circadian
this.
rhythm,
Yeah.
Karen. Now I get
Yeah.
excited
Yeah.
about that. But glasses and contacts block those
Mhm.
rays. Even clear eyeglasses that you just wear in your everyday glasses, the plastic in those glasses blocks the UV rays. And most contact companies, they're so proud and they advertise
Right.
UV blocking because they think everybody wants to keep the UV out because we've all been brainwashed that it's dangerous.
Mhm.
Contacts also block it, most brands. And it really is, and it's interesting because I had my beach retreat guests here, and some of them wear pretty hefty prescriptions, but they brought their glasses down to the beach. They had their eyeglasses, and they go down with nothing on. And having them for, look,
When you see, yeah.
people eating a crab. And they're like,
Yeah.
wait a
Yeah.
minute.
I put my glasses on.
But it's important and it's really healthy. And I know people will come at
Mhm.
me and say, I'll have to read the comments under this once you put this video out there. But I know it'll be like, but my doctor told me I got cataracts and to wear sunglasses all the time. Or my doctor told me I had the starts of macular degeneration and I need to wear my sunglasses all the time. Phooey, hogwash, incorrect information. You need light in your eyes. You need to have your brain signaled of the time of day. You need to have your circadian rhythm set. And you know what? There wasn't, ancestral man was not wearing their Maui Jims and their Ray-Bans, right? And they were not all running around blind from cataracts and macular degeneration.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's think logically about this. The sun is critically important on our skin and into our eyes. And I'll say this though, if you're driving in the car and there's a lot of glare coming off the road, perfectly fine to wear your nice dark sunglasses. Why? The windshield's blocking the beneficial rays anyway. So go ahead and wear your sunglasses. And I'm not saying that to not ever wear your sunglasses. And I actually have a whole YouTube video about it. I think that the title says why this eye doctor tells you not to wear sunglasses. But I will say this, if you're at the beach for hours, if you're on a boat and that's reflecting off the water, if you're
Yes.
skiing and the reflection off the snow, it's fine. I'm not saying that you have to throw your sunglasses in the trash. I'm just saying, in general, you should try as much as you can to not wear them.
Yeah. I had an eye doctor actually tell me I have like this yellow film on parts of the whites, and they
But
told me it was from
a,
sun.
a pterygium or a pinguecula,
I
one
don't
of those
remember.
two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I was told it was from like really like basically sunburned my eyes or something, like something
Yeah.
like that.
That's typically if you've spent a bit of time in dusty, windy. Did you spend any time like outside, outdoors? Some people say, oh yeah, I was a lifeguard and a
Well, I
gardener.
lived in Mexico for a long time. And
Uh-huh.
so I really pushed it. I mean, we were out in the sun constantly. And so I
Yeah.
think just that the glare on the water and just, I
And
never
and
wore
the
sunglasses.
and a lot of wind and particulate
Hmm. Hmm.
that is in yeah. So, in a scenario, if you live near the equator and you're in a windy, dusty, wherever kind of, so yeah, you're going to protect and in that kind of scenario. But yeah, Mexico and anything kind of down near the equator, if you are outdoors a ton and also in an environment where, there's a lot of construction going on and it really has to do with particulate matter too. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's tough. It's like nobody, I say, don't put that toxic sunscreen chemicals on your skin. You put one application of that on, 1 week later, they can still detect it in your blood. And all of this push that we've had for like probably since 1980 with the dermatologist pushing sunscreen, guess what's happened to the skin cancer rate? Boop, ba doop, ba doo, just gone
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
with billions of dollars in sunscreen sales because we're
Yeah.
all brainwashed to slather it on. I
Oh,
don't
it
put it
just makes me cringe so much when you
on.
see the mothers. Like, I don't know any
Yeah,
mother besides myself and my sisters who don't drown their child in sunblock, put on their hat, put their
Yeah.
sun shirt on, and then they can go out and play in the sun. And it's like, no, like we're creating this epidemic of vitamin D deficiency, which is causing
Hot.
so many problems. And it's like, you guys, you have to let your children's skin see the sun,
Yeah.
like even if it's 10 minutes, no sunblock, like at least like start slow because their
Yeah.
skin's not going to be used to it.
Yeah. And
But they
there's
gotta
actually
get sun.
Yeah, and there's actually some really good sunscreen, beef tallow based. There's whipped beef tallow with zinc and healthy, type of sunscreen.
Yes.
So if, because I get it. If you're going to the beach for the day, you need either kids got to be under an umbrella or with the sun shirts on because you don't want to get scorched. I mean, we're not being stupid here, right? But there are safe sunscreens. And if you, I'll give you a link, Karen, to put in the notes for
Yeah.
um, sunscreen.
Yeah. Well, and I noticed with my own children, because I didn't use sunblock on them very often, my son specifically, just he can't handle the touch, the feel of it on his skin. So we've never been able to use it with him. And he'll get a little bit pink at the start of the year because he's so white by the time winter's done, like pasty, pasty white. So we go in little increments. He'll get a little bit red sometimes, but then after that, that is it. Like he's gone 2 months now through every day almost getting sunshine. Some of the days he's been out there for 6 hours playing on the water,
Wow.
no sunscreen, and he has not burned once.
Great.
And
Well,
he's got
and
a
then
beautiful tan.
yeah, and also I'll tell you a couple other tidbits here on that is when you don't have seed oils in your diet and it stays out of
Yes.
your diet long enough, there's huge amount
Inflammation.
of reports of people once they've turned carnivore that all of a sudden they're like, wow, I don't burn anymore. Or yeah,
Yep.
get a tiny bit pink by the next day it's tan. And it's entirely different. Your skin has now, you got to give it enough time because it takes, like I said, a long time to rid that from your body. But there's definitely um, testimonials, anecdotes,
Yes.
all
Same with
of,
paleo, because
yeah,
people remove
yes,
seed oils,
yes,
right? And just
right.
grains and everything, and just
Yeah.
the anti-inflammatory effects of that kind of a diet.
And I'm going to tell you one other really important thing that this is really interesting that you have to think about. So everybody who's listening, I know this is going to seem so bizarre, but when you wear your sunglasses and you're going outside, those sunglasses are telling your brain that it's nighttime and we don't need to protect from the sun and the melanin
Right.
that needs to happen to get the tan and to prevent the burn. When you've got those dark sunglasses on, guess what? You're messing with Mother Nature. Keep the sunglasses off and you will burn less. I know it doesn't
Yeah.
sound possible, but between the seed oils and the sunglasses and the natural sunscreen when you need to, I think that's your really your way to go.
Yeah, and I interviewed Danielle Hamilton recently about circadian rhythm, and she was saying that if you get sun in the morning, when the UVA and UVB is low, she said it actually preps your skin to be more protective of the UVB rays, like in burning later in the day. So to
Right.
get that full spectrum kind of from morning till night, there's benefit to that to protecting the skin. And I was
Yep.
like,
That's
this,
what
it's
like we
Mother
gotta
Nature. She does nothing by accident,
nope,
like
we
it's
gotta
amazing.
we just have to get out of our boxes.
We have to
Get
get
out
out
of
of
the
the boxes.
box, the
Yeah.
house box, and the car box, and the store
Yeah.
box. Out of the boxes, get out into nature. It's just so healthy and so important. And it seems
Yeah.
kind of crazy. It just is like, what do you mean? She's saying go outside, but it's serious. We
I
got to
know
get.
it seems so simple and it's like, yes, but it's so profound because, and it's not simple because we're not doing it. And so people are like, oh, what do you mean going outside? Like me, so stupid, like you hippies or whatever, and it's like, no, really, it has to, it's now becoming to me, for me, just as important as diet. It's like we can do all these things and take all the supplements and do all the biohacks, but if your diet's not dialed in for whatever that looks like for you, and you're not getting outside, then it's like you're only going to get so far, right? These things have to be the foundation to everything, I think.
Yes, definitely. It's all, it all comes together. It's integrated, and then I say once that sun has set, make sure you block the
Yes.
root, and so it's interesting. I have smattered around in various rooms, like one in my kitchen, one in my bathroom, one in my bedroom, these little square flat motion detector red lights.
Red
And
lights, yeah.
so when it's dark and I'm in the house and I walk past, this
Yeah.
red light goes on, because even the LED bulbs, no bueno.
Terrible.
Not
Yeah.
just the TV, the laptop, the iPads, and the phones. That's a big
Yeah.
part of the problem. But also just we don't not even really using incandescent bulbs anymore. Those were at least better than the
Yes.
what we have. But I know it just seems crazy to, okay, now this lady's telling me not to turn the lights on at night.
No, when I went and stayed with Danielle down in Austin when we were down there for Hack Your Health, I said, "Oh, what your neighbors must think." I'm like, "And you look like you live in the red light district," because we are not allowed to turn on a single light in the entire house. Everything, she's got those red things all over the place. And so I'm like feeling my way through her house, trying to get down the stairs, like trying to trigger because it's a motion detector. And I'm like, "Okay, come on, I can't see what I'm doing." And then, okay, the light goes on, and then you can barely see your way down the stairs. And I've just been slowly, and I think this is important for people to hear, is you can do these things that we're talking about slowly, like you don't have to do everything at once, because yes, that can be overwhelming to switch. But I, like my son, I started him with just the yellow blockers, and he saw that he fell asleep faster and it's easier for him now at nighttime. So now he's wearing them every single night before bed to watch TV, because feels the difference. He's 10. And then myself, I started with the orange glasses. And then now I just bought some red incandescent. Actually, I found incandescent red light bulbs. And so now I've got 2 lamps. And so my next thing will probably be to get the motion sensors.
Yeah.
Slowly getting darker and darker in my house at night.
And then, then it seems kind of crazy, but ultimately we should be really going to bed closer to when it is sundown, and then get up at, oh, that was the wind coming off the ocean just slammed my door. But yeah, get to the point where we actually are more naturally living by the natural circadian
Yeah.
rhythm of Earth. Yeah.
Hard to do in Canada, Lisa. I'd be going to bed at 3:30 in the afternoon in the winter and getting up at 8 a.m. because it's
Yeah.
that dark for many, many months. It's horrible, horrible. It's
Well,
depressing. But
you're gonna have to
anyways,
move. You have to
I'm
move,
gonna have
Karen.
to move to Florida, which that's in the cards. Right now,
Yeah,
I actually just bought a house, and one of the reasons I chose this house was there are windows across every wall. And it's on the lake. And so those I'll be able to see the sun coming through my windows from the time I get up to the time I go to bed. And so
perfect.
that was really important to me. I was like, I need more natural light coming in, because my house now is dark. So I'm excited to see how this winter is going to go with more
Yeah.
light
You
coming
know
in.
what? Yeah, people really have to understand that it really makes a difference. It really
Yes. It
does. Yeah.
really, really does. And I've been watching I track my sleep through my 8 Sleep mattress cover. And since I've started wearing the glasses, it took about a month, a little bit more, and suddenly I started getting more deep sleep. And
Yeah.
that's the only thing I can contribute it to. There's other little things that might be helping. Like I've been doing a couple other different things, but that was like the most consistent that got brought in. I was always in the red. Like it always warned me when I wake up in the morning, it was like under what I should be getting for deep sleep. And it's been like that forever. Like I had an Aura ring once, same thing. I never got enough deep sleep. It always was in the red. Now every night consistently it's been going over, and there's been a few nights where I didn't wear the glasses. I was stressed out, and sure enough my deep sleep went back into the red.
Shows it, right?
So that's proof, everyone, proof that it does work. Okay, so so you have a couple different things that I really like. One, you've got monthly retreats where you are in Florida.
No, I'm in New
That's
Jersey.
New Jersey. Sorry, I kept thinking you're Florida. Okay, so
Yeah.
New Jersey, but on the ocean.
Yes, I am on the ocean. Let's see if I can pick up my, let me see, the ocean
Oh,
is right
yes. Yep.
there. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I live on the ocean and I host small groups and it's just incredible gathering people. And I do, cooking demos, living my carnivore life with me. We get up to do a beach walk at sunrise and they come to the gym with me to learn how I work out if they're interested. I have a wellness room that has a sauna and red light. And it's just, you know what? And I have a fire pit out there. And in the evening, it's just so empowering to just talk about our past struggles, our successes, and what's working, and just learning from each other. And it's just, I don't know,
It's
they're
women
amazing.
only, right?
Well, I actually have a bedroom where I would take a husband and a wife. And I also have one private room where I would take a gentleman. So yeah, but so far it's been women only.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
And
so nice to have that community. I would think that to support you if this is something that you think you'd like to try, to have that I think is really nice.
yeah, yeah. So I've committed to it's sold out for 2024, but I have committed and put up the dates for June, July, August, September, and October of next year. So I'm filling
To do
those
your 5-day
the
retreat in New
5 day
Jersey.
retreats. Yes, yes. And then in
Okay.
addition to that, um I am doing a carb sober cruise and it's February 1st through 7th, 2025. And just amazing that I have so many people signed up. And what I did, I don't have it here. So I got these bright aqua Caribbean blue wristbands that say Carb Sober Cruise. And then when you flip it on the other side, it says hashtag allergic to seed oils. And I have this Royal Caribbean ship on alert that there is this large group of people coming on who don't eat carbs. And but anybody's welcome because they're, you can bring friends, spouse, whatever. It's not like Gestapo on the carnivore thing, but it's meant to just unite in a really relaxed, friendly atmosphere. And everybody's going to get that wristband. And wherever you are, whether you're at a music venue or at the buffet, and I have a whole reserved dining area for us where the wait staff knows
Wow.
how we eat. And yeah, it's just going to be, and I say to people, I was like, it's not fun when you give yourself permission to go off the rails on vacation and come back inflamed and 5 pounds heavier.
Right.
And it now it's going to be normal to be around other people who are also attempting to stay away from the dessert buffet. And it yeah, it to me this it's so important to uh get people together who are
It
like-minded, who
really
are striving
is.
for optimal health. And it's just amazing. And it's not that expensive. Like as low as $100 a day, you can go on the cruise, unlimited meat, seafood, eggs, and entertainment. And heck, and then, I'm going to just tell people, each morning I'm going to be up on the walking track on the open top deck, and what days I'm going to be at the gym if you want to come work out with me. And other than that, everybody's just going to be able to like just enjoy each other's company. And just I think there's going to be a lot of lifelong friendships made here
I
too.
think so too.
And I
Yeah.
created a WhatsApp group called Carb Sober Cruise Roommate Finder. So people who would like to room with somebody, because that's kind of how it works on the cruise. It's, you pay double if you want to have the room to yourself,
Right.
or you find a roommate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm
Oh,
really
that's gonna be amazing. And it's so important, I think, to find your crew. Like I've really
find your
in the
tribe,
last
find your
find
tribe.
your tribe. Like in the last probably 2 years, I've done all this travel to all these different speaking events. And so I've got to hang out with all of these women that are in this industry. And we have created the most incredible friendships. And it's the most refreshing, incredible thing ever to be around like-minded people where it's like it's not weird when you're putting on your orange blue glasses, or it's not weird when you want to have seed oil free food or gluten free, and everybody's doing the same thing and we're all like, oh, did you take your methylene blue this morning? Oh, did you take that? Did you
How
do
about
this? Did you
iodine? Are you on iodine? What percentage do you take?
right? It is. It's great, especially if you're in a place like myself where, like, I'm in Redneckville, where nobody's heard of carnivore, no one's heard of paleo. That's like gluten free. What? Like, that's it's how far behind people are where I am. And
Yeah.
so to be around people, I think is just it's we need community and we thrive in community. And so I think that the fact that you're offering this, and it's not even a come learn about it. It's more come be around people and just do your thing, have a great vacation, but be around all these people that are like-minded that you can sit and talk with and have so much in common.
Right. Anywhere you are on the ship, you see somebody with that band, you
The
can just
blueprint.
strike up a conversation. And so I also host meetups because, like I said, I'm so passionate about doing these kind of things because it's so empowering. But so September 7th is my 5th annual Northeast meetup here in New Jersey. That I have people who fly in from all over the country. And
Wow.
Dr. Kiltz is going to be there, and Fred Hahn, who's the slow burn exercise expert. And I have a rancher who comes down from Rhode Island bringing the regenerative meat and bacon wrapped scallops. And yeah, it's just a
Delicious.
really great event. And yeah, it just like you said, it's about joining people together. And my particular cruise, I know there's a low carb cruise out there where they on your C day, you're in lectures all day and there's a host of different people, but not on mine. We're going to be outside, not inside in a lecture on the C day.
Yeah.
And I did reserve just from 9 till 11, I think, in the C days, if you want to come and have a Q&A with me, or I'll do a presentation. But that's it. Other than
Perfect.
that, outside in the sun, enjoying each other's company and enjoying the sunshine. So
I
yeah,
love that you're bringing people together in so many different areas, like choices. They have so many choices. And for to be in person in this digital world that's so rare now to find, and you seem like you're really big on, hey,
I
I want to
love,
try and
yeah.
get people in person.
Yeah, because I have led virtual groups for now for this is my 4th year, and they're awesome too because without
Yeah.
that, I wouldn't have been able to connect just like you
Yes.
have. You can't, it's not easy, but now I've got people from the UK and Australia, and it's awesome, right? And from that, the people in the groups are like, hey, I'm going to the Northeast meetup. Are you going? Yeah. And then they're flying out and now meeting face to face. Or I have meetups down in Florida a lot too, because usually in the winter I head down to Florida for a month or two, and which I am doing this year. I'm going to have a meetup in the Orlando area before I get on the ship for anybody in that area. And then I'm also, well, I just decided for my 60th birthday, which is December 1st, 2024, that I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to book another cruise. So I'm going to go on another one. And that's out of Fort Lauderdale. So I'm going to have a meetup down there. But it really, I
Great.
have this, I'm like, I've been heard saying I'm on a mission to have a meetup in every state. So um,
Great.
I've hosted I think I'm up to number 30 in face-to-face meetups at restaurants like Churrascaria, like the meat carving Rodizio restaurants, which are perfect to have them at. And yeah, again, it's always been magical every time I've walked away from one of those. And I just
Yeah.
vowed that I'm just never going to stop because
Yeah.
people are able to connect. And I've had them in, Virginia and Denver and Sacramento. And the people who come, are then typically more local, and then they exchange. And I say, you know what? Once a month, you guys get together, have a lunch, have a,
Yeah.
know, it's just,
Yeah.
it's great. It's very empowering. And because, you do feel very, isolated
Yeah.
in what we do, because a lot of
Yeah.
people just roll their eyes and say, well,
Mhm.
that's fine until you have a heart attack. And I'm like, yeah, no, you don't get it.
No, exactly, yeah. And so can people find all of this, like your upcoming events on your website? That's
Yeah.
where to
Yeah.
go? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll give you the link. I have a separate
Yeah.
specific link for the Carb Sober cruise. And
Okay.
yeah, I'll give you that,
Okay,
all
send
that.
me all that. So everybody, this will be in the show notes. So if you're interested in joining one of her live meetups, then be sure to check it out because that would be amazing. So if I'm ever down there, I'll see if there's any meetups going on in
I
any state
know.
that I go to. Okay.
How about a cruise, Karen? We're gonna have to get you. I'm gonna keep doing them. I've already decided because I've had such a great response to it that I know I'm gonna end up doing them every year. So you're gonna have to
Maybe I
jump on.
can just come and talk to them about hormones then, because since it's women and you tend to attract women that are
Oh
probably in
yeah, you know
midlife
what?
too, right?
You could come to, yeah, come in as a special guest in one of my
Special
beach
guest.
in my
Every
beach.
woman wants to hear about the hormones. So
Yes, yes, yeah. And I'll put you up in my private guest suite. And yeah, that would be
perfect. Yeah,
okay.
I'm
I'm
in.
gonna do it. 2025. We're gonna have you pick a date.
Perfect. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I think there's going to be a lot of women that this is really going to resonate with, and I think that it's an option. And I just think like try it. What could it hurt? You're either gonna, like I
Only
said, you're gonna either go that sucked, not doing that again, or it's going to be so life transforming that you're going to be like, okay, I think I can do this.
you're going to learn something from it. And it might be,
Yes,
wow, this is awesome. I want to keep doing it, but dang, it's hard. All right, then jump in a group and get support and
exactly.
join in with other people who are right there with you, knowing it's hard and just
Because you
getting
have
it.
a virtual also membership.
Yes, yep. I meet like
Yes.
5 times a week with people in the group, and I keep it
Yeah.
small enough everybody can talk to me, ask questions, and
That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yep.
So if anybody's thinking about doing, I would definitely, that's where I would go. It's that group to start.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that that's
that's a
awesome.
great start. And yeah, I say, you know what? Addictions love isolation, and community is the opposite of addiction. And
Yes. Yeah.
staying engaged in a group has been shown to be instrumental in getting yourself out of the dark, deep, hole that you're in. And it's just such a bright, beautiful light after you get to that point, you realize what you have to do. And it's not easy, but nothing worthwhile is easy.
Yeah.
We got to do hard things. We
Yes,
do.
we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Karen.